Hey guys, welcome to another Donoran Monologue podcast. I'm your host, Beau. Before we go any further, we do want to thank our sponsor, longtime supporter of the show, Ashley Luann K. You can find her on Instagram at the Minnesota Nurse. That's all one word, all lowercase. And if you're having trouble spelling Minnesota, just type it into Google. It'll tell you how. So guys, today we're going to talk about the game that made it okay to sell your JRPG in the West, and that is Super Mario RPG. Super Mario RPG, we kind of had a good thing going on. It was the mid-90s. Squaresoft and Nintendo were really getting along. Squaresoft really hadn't let Nintendo know that that Final Fantasy VII was not going to be released for the N64. They were still kind of leading them on there. Take a moment and imagine a Final Fantasy VII released for the N64, by the way. Imagine how awful that would have been for that game. But everyone was getting along. Everyone was having a good time. And we got Super Mario RPG out of this friendship. Super Mario RPG was super cool because it was a very accessible JRPG, and it featured characters, of course, Super Mario characters that were just as popular in the West as they were in Japan. So this is kind of the perfect storm. We had a JRPG where we were playing as Mario. So I don't want to ruin the story for you, and again, I could probably get a week's worth of podcasts out of Super Mario RPG, so we'll save that for then. But the story is, at the beginning, Princess Peach is kidnapped and Mario has to save her. Like usual. King Koopa, or Bowser, as we'd begun to call him. But what's interesting is both Bowser and Princess Peach will become party members that you can recruit during the game. The game also features two original characters, Mallow, who is a cloud person, and Geno, who is a child's doll brought to life by a wish. Geno for Smash has been dying recently, but I still think Geno is one of the best characters they could possibly put in Smash Brothers. I would still very much like Geno. It's one of the reasons why I went ahead and bought the Fighter Pass today, even though our only confirmed character was Min Min. So, Super Mario RPG has I think, and something that kind of one thing that it did to influence JRPGs as a whole, most of its influence is just how it made this genre more popular in the West. And let's talk about that real quick. It did this in several ways. For one, it had Mario characters. Two, it had textbook JRPG gameplay. And for three, it had the word RPG in the title. This is how most of us found out what an RPG was. It absolutely is. I didn't know what one was till Super Mario RPG. I didn't know it stood for role-playing game. I had to find that out from Super Mario. I had played role-playing games before, but I didn't know that's what they were called. So, having all this working for it, it was ready to introduce the West to this game because these games had moderate sales success. But it wasn't until after Super Mario RPG that it really blew up, and I think Super Mario RPG paved the way for the fantastic sale, in part, to the fantastic sales of Final Fantasy VII a year later. So Super Mario RPG, one thing I think is cool is how it influenced mechanics later, in that Super Mario RPG had a mechanic where you could get a critical hit, not by randomized numbers, but by clicking the A button at just the right time during your character's attack animation. This would come into prominence in Legend of Dragoon 4 years later. Beg your pardon. Several other JRPGs would incorporate the way Squall's Gunblade worked in Final Fantasy VIII. So you could see this influence appear later, and that's the most important gameplay influence. It did not feature a traditional world map, but rather a map where you would click on different points to go to different areas. This, of course, would be incorporated in JRPGs much later when they would eschew the world map for simpler navigation. So Super Mario RPG, with its cast of familiar characters or characters that seem familiar, with its familiar settings, that's super important because you had the Mushroom Kingdom, you had Bowser's Castle, dungeons like that. That sort of made it more accessible and nice for us. We understood the healing items very well because it would be like a mushroom or like a one-up mushroom, stuff like that. And mini games and side quests, and there was a menu thing you can unlock. You can unlock something in your menu to play a little shooter, Space Invaders almost type game. And the way you did it was you would save up 500 gold coins and you would go buy it off of a kid at the Mushroom Kingdom town. And it would just appear in your menu. And I used to love just playing that. I remember on the original Super Nintendo, I just played that game all the time. And it's a shame that we don't have a remake or a sequel to Super Mario RPG. We did have the Mario and Luigi Superstar series. It was cool, but it was no Super Mario RPG. Paper Mario, which has become not an RPG, but I think is going back to being an RPG. Origami King is coming out, and it looks awesome. I just hope it goes back to the more traditional RPG style of Paper Mario and Paper Mario 2, The Thousand Year Door. So those games in itself are another aspect of Super Mario RPG's legacy. But Super Mario RPG is just, man, it's so charming. The humor in the game is very real. It's much like Dragon Quest or Chrono Trigger humor. And there are serious moments in the game. You wouldn't think about it. It's about Mario. But there are serious moments in the game that kind of get you, particularly dealing with the character of Geno and Mallow. And it's a game you could play hardcore, but you don't have to. Like, you could just sort of casually have fun with it. And because the world map is the way it is, there's not a whole lot of ridiculous exploration. Because it was a game made with kids in mind, because it's a Mario game, the NPCs are pretty generous with hints. That doesn't make it easy, it just makes it possible, basically. Excuse me, beg your pardon. So guys, I think this is a great game to start RPGs on for kids. The same way it introduced us in the West to it, it introduces kids to it in much the same fashion, and I think it's fantastic. My son loves the game. It's timeless. Like, because of its simplicity, it's timeless. All these games I'm talking about, I genuinely feel are timeless because of that. I know a lot of people nowadays will say a lot of these games aren't worth going back to because of the graphics style, which Super Mario RPG, because it was stylized, it has about the same graphical quality of the Donkey Kong Country games, which I think still looks great. If we had an HD remaster, it'd be amazing. And since Nintendo was the publisher and Shigeru Miyamoto was the producer, I don't see why Nintendo can't. Yeah, make it like a Link's Awakening thing. That would be incredible. And since Squaresoft and Nintendo play so nice nowadays, there's really no reason for this not to happen. But guys, I strongly suggest you check it out. This game's even easier to play than Chrono Trigger because if you have the Super Nintendo Online, it is one of the Super Nintendo games, correct? Yep. I'm pretty sure it is. You could play it on your Switch. You play it on your Switch. It is on the Super Nintendo Mini. However you prefer. I just strongly suggest that you check this game out. Guys, tomorrow's the big one. We're going to talk about Final Fantasy VII. I'm super excited. It's one of my favorite games of all time. It just recently had a remake, it's my game of the year, period. A lot of people will disagree with me, but I'll do a defense of why Final Fantasy VII Remake is my game of the year later. And my strongest defense, though, is because you can't tell me what to do. I'll pick whichever one I want. But guys, like, share, and subscribe. I know you've got friends that would like us. Share us out. Click the bell if you want to be notified. Let us know in the comments if you want, like, any of these games that you want a whole week series on. I would be more than happy to do it. I'm probably going to do it anyway, but still let us know in the comments. In fact, just fire up the comments, man. Talk to us. Join the Discord. I've got the links out there. Join the Discord. We're having a blast. I'm sure the Discord link is going to appear in the description of this video. It does. Our merch and Patreon are still up, guys. All that comes into making this a better show. We would love to have you. We would love to have you join with us doing all that, man. Like, this has been great. So, guys, until I see you next time, have fun and maybe start a new game on Super Mario RPG on your Switch.